How do they make it so good?
It all has to start somewhere, but for really good chocolate, it can't just be anywhere. It has to be somewhere within 10 degrees of the equator. Kind of rules us out right here, doesn't it? Somewhere where the fragile cacao trees can grow in the shade under a canopy of taller trees. A rainforest-like place where just the right kind of insects can do the right job of pollinating. Somewhere where there's a constant growing season to get just the right kind of cocoa beans for all of us chocolate lovers. Got it figured out yet? Well, for us and for about 80% of the rest of the world, we're talking about the Ivory Coast. Now, here they harvest cocoa beans just like they've done for 400 years. Only problem is, this stuff doesn't look anything like chocolate yet. Only when the beans have been removed from the pods and wrapped up in banana leaves and then left alone for a couple of weeks does the process of fermentation take over and make them useful. That's how the cocoa beans take on the brown color that we're more familiar with and start to have an aroma like chocolate. Once they become like this, the beans can be dried and then sorted and then shipped out of there, usually to someplace like Chicago and a chocolate manufacturer. This is one of only a handful of manufacturers in the United States, but the beans still aren't good for much until they get roasted, then shelled, and then pressed until they get what we know as dry cocoa and cocoa butter. Now we're getting somewhere. The cocoa butter gets mixed with what they call nubs, is that right? Nubs? Okay, and then you get chocolate. Like anything else, only the best quality cocoa beans turn into the best cocoa powder and cocoa butter, and that becomes the highest grade of chocolate. Now, lesser quality beans are still okay. I mean, they still get chocolate from them, it's just that the chocolate they get may not be quite as good. Of course, Goods only buys and uses the highest grade of chocolate. Would you expect anything less?
No.
Didn't think so.
How do they make this so good?
The chocolate comes in 10-pound slabs, 5 to a box, and Goods buys it by the ton.
Man, that's a ton of chocolate.
Right. Now, here's where the fun begins. To make chocolate-covered candies, you first have to melt and temper the chocolate. It gets heated up to 110 degrees and melts. Then, it gets cooled by adding chunks of already tempered chocolate until the temperature comes down to 86 degrees for milk chocolate, 88 degrees for dark chocolate. This tempering stuff is critical because if you've ever tried to work with it, you know chocolate can be very temperamental. When the room temperature is just right and the humidity is just right, now you're ready to make chocolate candies. Randy, why is all of this such a big deal?
Well, you're right, it is a big deal. Tempering chocolate is one of the most important processes that we have. Controlling the humidity, controlling the temperature. That's what gives us that rich, deep, dark chocolate and that sheen on the milk chocolate.
Now that we're good to go, the ingredients of the day. The toffees, or creams, or caramels, or nuts. Goods makes over 75 varieties of them. Come out of the kitchen where they've been prepared according to special formulas that really are over 100 years old. Only all natural ingredients are used: butter, sugar, a pinch of salt. Salt in candy?
That's right. If you've ever thought about it, your cookies, your pastries, and pies, anything that calls for sugar always calls for salt because salt makes sugar sweeter.
For most chocolate-covered candies like these, it takes about 3 hours, start to finish, to make a batch. You can see there are several steps involved in either hand dipping or enrobing these ingredients with chocolate that's just at its peak of readiness, making sure each piece is covered just right and cooled just the right amount of time to give each piece its perfect appearance and taste. Goods can get about 1,200 pieces from a batch, and taking about 3 hours per batch, you can figure on making about 8 batches in a day. And that's a pretty long day. But what it really means is, on a good day, they can produce about 500 pounds of Goods candies.
How do they make it so good?
Goods' famous peanut brittle is really something to see, and it's not at all like watching them make chocolates. It takes about 5 people to do this job, and it all starts with a kettle that's well on its way to about 290 degrees. Here we're making about a 35-pound batch of peanut brittle. First the sugar goes in, then pretty soon the peanuts. They're allowed to roast a little while, and in goes some salt and some baking soda, and you'll notice the stirring never really stops. Hey Randy, what's the most important thing in making really good peanut brittle?
Well, the most important thing is timing and commitment. You have to be certain that you add the product at just the right time, that you pour, cut, and stretch at just the right time, and you have to be committed because good peanut brittle waits for no one, and it does affect the taste.
When everything's heated up to a good gluey-like consistency, they pick up the kettle and just pour everything out on that nice, cool marble slab. Spread it all out, then cut it, flip it over, then they stretch it all out, and you have Goods peanut brittle. The first batch of the day takes about 10 minutes to make. After that, the batches take a little less. Peanut brittle gets divided up into 1-pound packages. So from a 35-pound batch, how many packages would you get?
35.
We knew you'd get that one.
How do they make it so good?
We all know that chocolate candy of any kind can be pretty tasty, but the real difference between everyday candies you can find just about anywhere and the really good stuff you'll always remember has everything to do with taking the very best ingredients, preparation done less by machines and more by personal attention, the highest quality chocolate on the planet, and last but not least, packaging that makes them look just as good as they taste. Right after Goods candies cool for just the right amount of time, chocolates are placed in those little paper cups we all know and love. Or they're wrapped and sealed as needed and made ready for you to see, buy, take home, and enjoy. All the varieties of cream or nut-filled milk chocolate or dark chocolate, the nut rolls, the truffles, the peanuts and raisins, the bridge mix, the almonds and cashews, and yes, many kinds are available as sugar-free too. And don't forget the fudge and peanut brittle. They're all available by the pound and in several sizes of boxes and assortments any way you want it. It's always fun to come into the shop and pick out just what you'd like, but you can always call in your order, or you can fax it to us. You could even go online, pick out what you'd like at any time you'd like, and email it to us. And we'll either have it ready for you to pick up or we'll ship it to you.
This is really good.
Well, the chocolate business has been in my family since the 40s. We've had a long tradition of quality and excellence, and I'm very proud of that. But not only of the family tradition, but of our reputation for making the finest chocolates you'll find anywhere. And I believe you'll be able to taste the difference in every piece, every time.
Chocolate covered cherry is my favorite.
Oh my gosh, coconut. It's my favorite.
This is good. This is toffee. It's my favorite. This is good.
Chocolate covered caramel. Oh yeah.
Goods Candy Shop, the finest chocolates, a family tradition.